Okay, now, gotta excuse, it's late at night, or actually it's not late at night at all, but I gotta get into bed quite soon. I'm tired. I've been on my feet since 5:30 this morning. Gotta get up at the same time tomorrow, so yeah, anyway. This is the Panasonic HDC-SD707. Records to SD cards, and have the original box right here to kind of show you some of the main features. It does support the modern SDXC cards up to 64 gigabytes. Has an advanced 3 MOS system, 3 CMOS sensors for good color reproduction. Thing is, with the modern high-resolution CMOS sensors, a 3 sensor setup really is not as much of a big advantage anymore as it used to be in the CCD days. So it is a nice thing to have, but you can tell all the other producers, Panasonic is pretty much the only one left to offer a 3 image sensor setup on their consumer camcorder models. It's not really too much of a terribly important feature anymore. This was very cool. 1920 by 1080 Full HD progressive video. Shoots 50 progressive frames per second, which really gives you a very sharp image, because your video editing software does not have to go ahead and do any kind of de-interlacing and that kind of stuff. Full HD. Has a Leica Dicomar lens system. 12 times optical zoom, 35mm wide lens. That was another great feature. I love that. Very wide lens without any one of these silly wide angle adapter things. And it didn't have this kind of fisheye effect that you often get with wide angle lens adapters, so that was nice to have. Power OIS, Powered Optical Image Stabilizer, is basically a hybrid optical image stabilizer, and then it had a feature for a digital image stabilizer. And then this IA, Intelligent Auto, whatever that might be, silly feature. It really doesn't work very well, at least not for me. Made in Japan, and it is in fact silver. I had to put that label on because on the box it's black. Let's see, it can also record in surround sound. Never used that feature. Okay, so there it is, and I have to make this video right now. You may say, well, why don't you wait until you're not that tired? Thing is, we sold this today, and I'm going to bring it over to a friend of mine tomorrow, right after getting home from school. So, yeah, we really don't have too much time left. And I bought this camcorder off of eBay for €600, and I sold it for $550. Probably could have gotten more. We had it on eBay for $599, as in $599, that is, as a regular auction. That didn't sell, so we put it up for $550 buy now, and somebody quickly went ahead and bought it. So, you know, it was not even on for a day, and it was gone. So. Well, anyway, and so I did not really get back what I put into this, but anyway, and the money I got for this is actually already spent for another camera, which I guess I'm going to keep for a little bit longer than this one. I have this one for a couple of months, I think. So, 3 MOS. 35mm wide, Power OIS. It has a function button right there to access all the functions that this camera has, and it has tons and tons and tons of functions. Those are then controlled either by the touch screen or by the lens ring around here, which for some reason on this model this is it's very stiff and it actually makes scratchy sounds. So that's probably not the way it's supposed to be. Has a lot of manual features. That's nice. That's great. Problem being, it puts them all onto the touch screen, and even with this setup right here, you still have to kind of mess around with the touch screen. I don't like that. If manual controls, then as a button on the housing. The other thing I noticed is you can, with a touchscreen, you can easily and simply activate manual functions. For some reason, I don't know why, I don't know, it doesn't say anything about it in the manual, so I don't know what's up with that, but I have not found a way to deactivate them again. I always had to go from the manual mode into the auto mode and then back to manual to get those to turn off. 14.2 megapixel still picture recording. That's they've really done some upscaling there, because the native resolution of the image sensors is, I think, a little over 3 megapixels. Auto manual selector, already mentioned that. We have a selector for OIS. You can turn it off, you can turn the optical system on, and you can turn the optical and digital system on. Little note about that, the digital system really does do a great job when you are holding the camera in a fixed position. However, if you try to move it around, you'll end up with funky effects, and the image stabilizer is just not doing what it's supposed to do. So it's good for as I said, good for stationary shots, but when you want to move the camera, it's best to turn the digital assistance off. Okay, there is the 3.2 inch widescreen touch screen, whatever. There it is. Has some real buttons on the more modern models. Those are all also part of the touch screen. Have a quick menu for all the quick functions that you are often using during record, and for the more advanced options you have the non-quick menu. Have a delete button, you have a pair of volume and zoom controls, and a record button right there. Over here we have power switch, a dedicated selector switch for the 1080-50p mode. We have probably the most silly thing about this whole camera, the ventilator fan. Silly thing about the ventilator fan is it's a variable speed fan, so you don't have a constant whine going on in the background that that you can just kind of ignore after watching the video for a couple of minutes. It's variable speed, so every scene the whine frequency changes, and you'll just never be able to ignore it, which is kind of silly. Down here we have the inputs and outputs and the slot for the SD card. I have an HDMI output, of course, and of course the USB, and then we have this silly thing down there, right there. This, how do they call that? AV Multi. This is a component video output, it is a composite video output, and it is a stereo audio output. Silly thing is, instead of giving you separate cables like Sony does for their AVR jack, which also serves a bunch of different functions, Panasonic gives you an all-in-one cable. So you have a super thick cable with tons and tons of plugs on there. That thing is just a nightmare to handle. Absolute fail. Okay, now down here, this is of course battery compartment. All the accessories are in the box. I'm not going to take them out now. Battery compartment. The batteries, they don't last very long. You definitely will have to look into getting a bigger replacement battery, or at least a secondary battery. And they are considerably considerably more expensive than, for example, Sony genuine batteries. So while the cameras are a little bit cheaper than, for example, Sony camcorders, the accessories are a bit more expensive, at least from what I've found. The DC input is sitting right there, so you can only use the DC input when there is no battery in place. You do get a dedicated separate battery charger, which is nice. Record button is right there. It's kind of a cheap button. It really doesn't give you too much of an idea of when you're actually pressing the button. There is the viewfinder. It does pull out, but it doesn't swivel, which makes it kind of pointless. At least it does pull out quite a bit of a distance. Photo button up there and the zoom control. And it's a nice zoom lever. Takes a while to get used to it, especially when you're coming from Sony camcorders. But it does work, it does its job, and I had the previous model of this camera, the Panasonic HDC-SD707. On there you had, instead of this little lever, you had like a slider control sitting there. That was very stiff, so this is a nice little upgrade. This whole camcorder is an upgrade. It's a billion times better than that SD300. That was a piece of garbage compared to this one. Okay, over here we have the mode selector for camera, video, or playback. It does not have a dedicated, or well, it does have one, but the main power switches are, of course, this one's triggered by pulling out the viewfinder, and then of course opening the LCD triggers another switch. Over here we also have an accessory shoe adapter that you have to plug in right there. This is a downgrade from the SD300, which actually had a nice slider door. This has only a cheap little flap, but it does its job. Microphone input. It also does have a plug-in power headphone output. Up here we have the surround sound microphone, and unlike the SD300, this microphone can actually be switched to stereo only. And it does have a very nice sound. And in front we have the lens, along with a flash up there. And down there we have, of course, standard stuff. Remote control sensor. This is for the autofocus, and the record light is down there. And on the bottom is, of course, a tripod mount. And that's it, pretty much, I guess. So, now it is a great camera. If you need lots and lots of control about of all the things that the camera does, it really is a good choice. It's a nice small little camera. It's light. It's pocket-sized. Well, you can stuff it into your pocket with a little luck. Of course, it's not one of the smallest cameras. Now, why am I not keeping this? Now, for one thing, I don't really like how each and everything is controlled through the touchscreen. Now, on the Sony cameras that I like so much, of course that is all just the same, but the Sony cameras don't have as many manual controls, so there is not as much that you can control using the touchscreen in the first place. The other thing I didn't like, as I already said, is the fan. In low light this thing is, well, it is pretty good, but it could be better. And the auto white balance is, well, the auto system, when that works, you notice when it works. It really does change the color balance of the picture rather rapidly and rather often, so it's kind of annoying. And I just had something else popping into my mind, but I now forgot about it. Oh dear. Anyway, so hope this was not all too terribly boring. And there it is. Take a last look, and that's it. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and see you again soon.